how long have you guys been here? 16 years. 16 years? What? And I never, wow, I guess, congratulations to you.
Thanks.
Wow, that's amazing. Man, that's so great.
Very kind.
Walks out.
Nothing.
Just walks out.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting. So come and join the conversation. Eisner approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Del Bush.
Dal.
Del.
W. Dal Bush.
Aside from derivations of your actual name,
Mhm.
is there a name you've been called or a common name you're called?
Like a nickname?
No, like someone mistakes your name. Let me give you context.
I'm ready for it.
I was in the bank recently,
Uh-huh.
and a teller at the bank who I've dealt with for years was the greeter, was in the greeting position.
Okay.
And on my way in and my way out, called me Charles both times.
No, I don't think I've ever had somebody like mistake me for somebody else and use a different name like that, which is, that's what it is something in their brain said that your name was Charles, and that's incorrect.
When I worked downtown on the phone, I would frequently get called Dan because of the way I guess I said my name on the phone.
I've had, tons of that over my life because Dal is an unusual name. So when you say Dal on the phone, people frequently jump to a different conclusion, that they've misheard a normal name that they've heard more often.
Yeah.
So they think Dan or Dave or something that starts with a DA. And then when you say Dal, you really have to kind of like pronounce it a few times and then they sort of get it. But that's my whole life.
But in that situation at the bank, I chose not to correct that person
No.
and thought, I can be Charles. I don't care.
For a bank, sure.
If you want to think I'm Charles, fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started me thinking about people at the store,
mm-hmm.
because I think there's a solid amount of weekly regulars who do not know our names, even with the fact that we have name tags.
Sure.
And to be fair, I wear mine a lot less than you wear yours.
Okay.
And the point of that story is, I also don't care. They don't have to know my name.
Yeah, I've never thought it was a priority.
I want them to know the store's name.
Yes.
I've always wanted people to say to their friends when they're on the phone in the store, holding the phone in front of their face, not up to their ear or
Right.
their mouth, but holding it in front.
Speaking directly into the bottom of their phone
Like they're
as the
like
speaker.
it's a pizza, like they're holding
Yes.
a pizza
Yes.
still in the box.
Uh-huh.
I always want people to say, "Oh, I'm at Challengers,"
Mhm.
not just the comic book store.
Yeah.
And we do get that a fair amount of time. People say I'm at Challengers.
One of my favorite jerky things to do on the phone is, Challengers, this is Dal. Yeah, is this the comic shop? This is a comic book shop.
Yeah, sure. You're right.
I don't know if it's the one you meant to call. I can't help you with that. How can I help you?
But yeah, so long as they know Challengers, they don't have to know our names. That's fine. And it's always, when we used to have people fill out forms to sign up for our subscription service, man, I can't look at you.
Sorry.
I can't. You're killing me.
Sorry, I'm yawning a lot. The second I sit down in this chair, I don't know what it is.
What about if you sit down in this chair, like if you happen to be at the podcastatorium
Uh-huh.
during the week and I'm not around?
Right. I don't frequently go to the podcastatorium when you're not around. The occasions that I
Is
do,
it because it's like an underground bunker and you're scared of it?
makes me sleepy.
There may be spiders?
No, I don't. I honestly don't know if it. I don't think it affects me nearly as much as when I am recording a podcast and then I can't stop yawning.
For me, my biggest trigger is opening the video sharing app Marco Polo.
Okay.
And as soon as I press record, that's when the yawns come on.
Uh-huh.
I think maybe there's a man.
Cover my
I'm
mouth.
gonna.
Cover my mouth that time. You don't have to look.
I still heard it.
You're going to hear it a lot more.
Wow.
One thing now that you're talking about names and pronunciations and stuff like that, one thing that frequently is in the back of my head when I'm talking to certain customers is that I usually will call someone whatever name we have for them in the system.
Yeah.
Whatever,
So,
whatever name they signed up under. So
that's
like,
what I was leading up to.
there's a lot
saying,
of Michaels and Stevens and like full names, and I get that people would normally put that when they're filling out a form, but I kind of want to do a thing starting on Sunday where it's like, hey, we've always called you Don. Do you go by Don? Is that cool? I mean, would you rather us call you something else? Every Michael's going to get that. Like, is Michael cool, or do you want Mike? Like, what are we going by? Because it had never occurred to me to ask before, but it is a thing where like I've made an assumption, and maybe people are just like Charles at a bank, where it's like, I'll be Steven here. That's fine.
Sure. But that was literally what I was getting at. I specifically remember somebody who'd filled out the form as William,
Mhm.
but always signed emails Bill.
Mhm.
So one day I'm like, does it call you William? No, it's Bill. Then why'd you put
Yeah.
William down?
Yeah.
Or there are people who literally go by a nickname that is no derivation of their name,
Mhm.
but still put their formal name on the form
Right.
or in the system.
Yeah, it's a little tricky because we don't nowadays. You can just create your own account and manage comics.
Yeah.
So your name is whatever you want it to be. But I wonder how many people just by default think they have to have like a really official name. Like, well, I've got to put my, like you wouldn't put Okada, you would put the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada,
Like
which
it
is
says
what's
on
on
his
his
driver's
passport.
license.
Yeah, he doesn't have a driver's license. He has a passport though, and it says the
He's
Rainmaker
got- he's-
Kazuchika
he's-
Okada.
He's got a driver's license in Japan.
You've got to say it. I wonder if he does. He might not.
Did you not see that Ferrari he drove in?
Yeah, in America, his Japanese driver's license wouldn't count in America. So
Okay, then
I'm
he's
not
got an
saying
American
he has
license.
a Japanese driver's license, and he only drove it like 6 feet. I don't think he did
No, he
driver's
drove it
license for that.
from, I don't know, whatever, from the airport or wherever.
I really do like the way that Nicholas Jackson says the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada. Like he really hits every syllable in a very bizarre, pretentious way, and I really appreciate the character work on that. It's good. It's good.
See, it never matters to me because I go by the formal version of my name, so I don't have to worry about
Reverend
what
Patrick
I put
Brower,
down. Lord Reverend.
pastor,
I'm a British Lord
minister,
and
Minister Patrick
a Reverend.
Brower.
No, it's Lord Reverend. We had this discussion a couple years ago.
I didn't know if it's modified since then. I don't know what other titles you
Actually,
might have accrued.
I think the official title was Reverend Lord
Okay.
because Lord Reverend sounds like it's one title when in fact it is two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I definitely do. I want to, when subscribers come in for the next little while, just be like, what are we going by? Like we've gotten Albert in as a regular customer, and I kind of want to go Albert or Al. Like, what are we? Bert? Do you go by Bert? Some
No,
people
he
go
goes
by
by
Bert.
Albert.
I don't know, but I haven't asked him. I haven't talked to him about
I mean,
that.
but that's when he would come up with the reward system.
Right,
he would
but I'm just saying, like, did he tell us that because he's like, it's got to be official? I think some people make that assumption.
Still today, someone was in and they're like, "Yeah, I've got a phone number on file." I'm like, okay. And I keep bringing him up. No, but you got my phone number on file? I'm like, do you mean the rewards program? Yeah. Okay. We never took your phone number.
Nope.
It was just name and email address.
Yep.
Oh, so my full name? It's
Well,
not just going to be under your first name.
And,
I will need both parts of your name.
and additionally, there
there
is
are
no
no
rewards
rewards.
program anymore.
I 100%. They gave me the name, looked them up. I'm like, okay. It just kept going.
We will have someone that comes in 2025 that says, yeah, and I think I'm in your rewards program. It's going to be like, wow, so many things with that. One, we haven't had that program in a year. Two, even if we did, you would have no points anymore.
I legitimately had a subscriber in today who is used to be a weekly regular, but it's been about a month since they were in.
Okay.
And as I'm ringing them up, said, "Do you have any points left?" And I said, we sent out
So many emails.
at least 13 emails.
I
About
changed
this.
the subject on the next catalog email, which I started working on today because both DC and Image put
Yep.
up their solicits.
I didn't get to look through the catalogs, but I saw
What
that.
I was working on right before we started the podcast.
Wow.
And
Look at you.
I
Always going.
made an alteration to the subject line of the email. I think now it says like new catalogs and subscriber info for August 2024, because while we've been telling people like, hey, we've been putting information about your subscriptions in these monthly emails, I don't know if they know which ones. And
Sure.
if I can get them to open one email, which would be Herculean at this point, I would like them to open the new catalog email because that's the one that most directly impacts subscribers. not only with all the new books that you may want to add well in advance of us actually ordering them, which means a really good chance of us getting them for you, but also if we're copying things over, that's where we're going to tell you that. So hopefully people will start opening those emails more. I'm not expecting a lot.
I thought you were going to say the email was like, the reward system is, the reward program is gone. This person...
I might, if I have an extra block of text, I might put that in there just to be like, by the way, since no one seemed to know about this, despite us putting it in like 9 emails.
I honestly think it was
Here you go.
13 emails.
It was a lot, but
Yeah.
it was several weeks, and it was like the emails we sent out just to subscribers, the emails we sent out to all of our customers, whatever. And it just, it was eye-opening to find out that no one ever opens our emails. So whatever gain we thought we were going to have by including all these people into our mailing list, by giving them a rewards program, was pointless. No pun intended, but I'll take it.
I'll take it as well. It was a good one.
Thank you.
This subscriber also wanted to get a heads up of what they had waiting for them.
Mhm.
So they're like, they went to their account to load up, what was on hold, which
Sure.
is the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't load.
Interesting.
And they got panicked and thought, oh no, it's been over a month. Have they dropped me? Am I being punished? But it eventually loaded, I guess, on a couple of refreshes or what have you.
Okay. Yeah. One of there's a couple things that I think a lot of people don't know about for the Managed Comics account that I think is super useful. One is that you can always go into your Managed Comics account at any time and find out everything that we currently have reserved for you. So it's not
By
just
reserved, you mean?
like it's arrived and is waiting for you. So it's not just a way for you to manage upcoming subscriptions and pre-orders, or to delete things from your list so you don't get them anymore. But there's a tab there that'll tell you everything that's waiting for you. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to come into the store until there's a certain product waiting for you or
A
enough
certain dollar
stuff to warrant a trip to the store, that's a good way to constantly check that, rather than having to call us up or email us and say, hey, what has this come in for me, or is how much stuff do I have? Is it a lot? It'll tell you. You'll go there and it'll tell you exactly what you've got waiting. The other thing is that everything we ring up under your account, which means all of your subscription stuff and every online order you've placed, is logged in your Managed Comics account. So if you ever wonder if you bought a specific book or what the last time you came in was or whatever, there's a tab for that too. Just go in and it'll tell you everything you bought. Super easy.
Say, Dal, speaking of Managed Comics,
Let's.
and this is not a Managed Comics things at all, it's actually a Shopify point.
Okay, let's speak of that then.
At what point do individual issues get archived in our system?
So one of the things that we have in our storefront is a thing called search, something filter and search. And basically it's a thing that a little panel on the left side of the search function that allows you to filter your searches by different categories, like different publishers, different categories, incentive or not incentive, sold out, not sold out, writers, artists, so on. Patrick, you have a question?
Would this happen to be because we spend a lot of money each month on a very detailed search feature?
It's the filter and search thing, which is the thing that we spend the most amount of money on each month for our Shopify account,
Which
outside
is
of shipping.
not a default setting that stores have. This is
We went out and got it.
above and beyond, and it makes more things searchable. Like if you wanted
Pardon
to
me.
see what we had for Sarah Beacon, you can just type in Beacon.
Yeah, and anything that's flagged with Sarah Beacon's name on it will come up in the search.
Or
Or
if it is something that uses a blurb from Sarah Beacon in the item description,
correct.
that'll come up as well.
Yeah.
Or tangentially related books, which I've always found interesting.
Yeah.
When it pulls things up.
Yeah, obviously we would love it if everything in our library had that ability, but unfortunately basically anything from when we started using Managed Comics a couple, 3 years ago to the present will have all that.
2-3 years ago.
Older
Couple,
stuff
2-3 years.
currently doesn't have that ability, but we hope in the future at some point that we'll be able to have all the older stuff searchable that way as well. But anyway, so that filter function charges us by the amount of items we have in our database.
Yes.
And specifically, it is just the items that are searchable on our website. So anything that we have that's archived or anything that is that exists in a non-active way is not counted towards our number of items, which is great. basically the threshold is 25,000 items. After that, we move up to the next tier, which costs us even more money each month, and we're already paying way too much for this thing to begin with.
But the jump in cost is ridiculous.
Yeah, and again, this is already the most expensive app that we have for our website, so we are not interested in going over that 25,000 item threshold. So we're at a point now where every few weeks I go through and I remove from the storefront, just the public-facing side of it, items that are old and that we're not going to get back in again. I did it for stuff like posters and toys and pins and card games and some other stuff.
Is it usually a zero quantity item you do it to?
It's a zero quantity. So basically my threshold is, do we have none in stock, and are we never going to get this again? And if it's yes to both of those, then I remove it from the website. Basically, it's not to get too technical, but I used to do a thing called archiving, but that made it unusable at the register as well, which I never want to do again. So I made it something where it's not displayable on the online storefront. So now what I mostly do is every few weeks when I'm looking at the count of items in the filter and search tab, their little overview, if we're approaching 25,000, I go through all the single comics and I go back to the oldest ones and I start removing stuff.
Do you have to do it item by item, or can you do it in blocks, or can you do
You can do it in blocks, but it's tricky because basically, like, you reach a page of 50 items and the top 3 things are still available. Like, it might be an older variant cover or incentive cover that we still have in stock, or it might be something we have for younger readers that we're still keeping available. So basically you flag the whole page, but then you have to unflag the things you want to keep, and then you remove those, and then you do it again and again. And I do that every few weeks now, and I do it in blocks of like 150 items per category that we're removing. So hopefully you bring that down low enough that in a couple weeks you'll be back up at that level and you'll have a couple weeks of cushion. My goal is about a year worth of single issue comics that we're displaying on the website. I don't want to have less than that necessarily, but I don't really like having more than that because that more or less reflects what we have on our shelves.
Sure.
We usually don't keep stuff on the shelves more than a year's worth back of any series that's been running longer than that. And miniseries get cut a lot faster because once the graphic novel comes out, if it's a limited series, we usually remove the single issues from the shelves because they are probably not going to sell because we usually have not nearly enough to make a complete series for anybody.
Well, it came up today because somebody was buying a Spawn 326 off the shelf, and it wouldn't scan, and we couldn't search it.
Yeah, it's probably because once upon a time, I would archive everything because I assumed that would just mean that it would display in a different tab for us on the back end, and it wouldn't be displayed on the website. But I found out eventually that it meant, no, you couldn't even scan it at POS, which is like, I never want to do that. So I haven't gone through and I can't really correct the old ones because I would have to make them active, and then I would immediately have to make just those things. I think there's a way to do it where I can take all of the archive stuff.
It's not worth your time.
No, I'm thinking about it now. If I only display archive stuff and I make it something that isn't displayed on the online storefront first, and then I make it active, it should work. I'll have to try it out.
Or not.
I'm not saying I'm going to stop recording the podcast right now, but it's something I can work on. It's not impossible to try it out.
You know what? I forgot. You were looking for more things to work on.
It's not a big deal.
Well, anyway, I figured out what it was, and
yeah.
I just rang it up as an independent generic.
That's what I've had to do before when I found it.
Who cares? Because we're obviously not tracking inventory.
Nope.
No, Dal, I mean, who cares?
And it's probably something, it's weird that I wouldn't have archived it if we had copies for the shelf, so it might have been a thing where the inventory was wrong to begin with, where it thought we had none.
I mean, it was archived with a quantity of 1.
It's very weird. I wouldn't have done that. I mean,
It could have slipped through the cracks.
It's possible, or we had something and I'd archived it and then someone put theirs back. I don't know. It's very, very weird.
I mean, it is 2 years old, so it's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
It was a weird week for Lunar because we got 5 of our 6 boxes in yesterday, and then 1 box today. But the box today had the invoice and the packing slip,
which is great.
Yeah,
thanks for that.
So Molly went out of her way to download the shipping invoice from the website and then hand build an Excel spreadsheet of everything that was missing,
It's great.
and I didn't use it.
Oh no.
I mean, when the box came in, I put everything in order,
Mhm.
and then the invoice was in the box.
The
So
packing slip.
I used that, yeah. So I used that,
Mhm.
and then went back to her email, printed out the list, and then just went, oh, everything's here, checked
That's
it all
great.
off. And then noticed she had actually printed one out and left it behind.
Oh.
So I wasted a sheet of paper.
Oh no.
And then I had to stop and think, oh, I need to reassemble all of these because it was random stuff. Like early
Yeah.
on, Lunar, the boxes were almost always alphabetical,
Pre-image
but now
when they were just distributing DC stuff.
initially, and I don't know if this changed or if it didn't, but it should have or not. But when I would check in Lunar, you would have me separate DC, Image, like DC and Image and everything else in the boxes.
Okay.
But everything is just strictly invoice alphabetical.
Hey, I don't remember why we would have done that. We haven't needed to. I mean,
Okay.
when we receive all that stuff, we just receive all that stuff. It's
Well,
fine.
it was always a lot harder to do it
I'm sure.
the longer way.
I honestly don't remember why that would have been. I haven't done. For me, I've not done it that way, and I can't remember how long. I literally do not remember doing it another way.
Oh, okay. Well, then I spent some significant time redoing the boxes so
Mhm.
everything is alphabetical.
Great.
Not just leaving the one box of today alphabetical,
Thanks.
which I wanted to do so bad. But I thought, that's not fair.
It would have been okay if you had. I would have
It's-
understood.
no,
You
it's
got,
not
you got a lot
fair.
going on
Yeah,
Fridays.
so do you on non-Fridays.
Less.
I mean, admittedly, I had unexpectedly more than I wanted to today.
Mhm.
But, things got done.
That's good to hear.
Going back to the name thing,
Yes.
UPS guy
Mhm.
dropped everything off, and it was a big shipment because it was a massive Southern Hobby box, which was split down the sides.
Great.
And he's like, "Do you want to report that or refuse this?" I go, "No, it's fine. It's just like supplies and stuff. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal at all."
Yeah.
There were several damaged 2-piece slide boxes,
Oh,
just
okay.
cracked on them, whatever.
Great.
And actually, friend of the store, Robert Burns, was in, and he caught some of the cracks before I did. Because I'm like,
Oh.
look at these self-serve boxes. You just reach in and pull things out before you even cut the tape.
Uh-huh.
But after he dropped everything off, he left. UPS guy came back in. He's like, "Hey, did you want to know how many boxes you're supposed to get?" And I said, "Supposed to get?" He's like, "No, you got, but I never showed you that it's supposed to be 11 boxes. So here it says 11."
All right.
I'm like, "Okay, thanks."
Yeah.
I would have noticed things were missing, but I wouldn't have noticed that the box count is wrong because because the Southern Hobby boxes were coming from 2 different Southern Hobby warehouses, sent on different days,
Right. And you're also looking at the Penguin Random House shipment.
which you never know how many PRH boxes you get because there are usually 1 or 2 envelopes of restock.
Yeah. I mean, they'll tell you how many cartons you're getting, but yeah, like you said, it could be envelopes, it could be boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were 2, like a small box, 2 like T-folds, and then 1 envelope of extra stuff, as well as the regular PRH stuff. And as I'm talking, I look at his uniform pocket
Mhm.
where normally there'd be a name tag.
Mhm.
It just says, "Sorry, I missed you." And I laughed and I said, "Oh, it looked like your name tag is 'Sorry, I missed you.'" He goes, "Oh no, Paul."
Oh, Paul.
Holds out his hand for me to shake his hand. He's like, "Paul." I'm like, "Oh, hey, Paul." Patrick.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I guess we've never known your name.
Yeah.
And also, I made a point of learning the good mail carrier's name and never remember
I
it.
never remember it. Like that's the thing that I always feel like is going to come back to haunt me if I do the like, hey, so we've got Michael on your account. Like, you prefer Michael, Mike, and then 3 weeks from now, I'm going to completely forget what the answer is and be like,
Anyway, the good UPS driver's name is Paul.
okay. I will again in 3 weeks. I will not remember that.
And there were 11 boxes.
Yeah.
in case you're wondering.
PRH was 7, I think.
Okay, because there were 3 little ones for
Mhm.
PRH, like 3,
I could have misremembered it.
Okay.
I looked at the manifest a few days ago.
2 Southern
Wednesday
Hobbies.
night, I think.
Gotcha. The Southern Hobby, the amount of we order one order, but it's coming from multiple warehouses, like everyone we use now
Mhm.
does.
Mm-hmm.
And one warehouse packed immaculately, one warehouse just chewing gum and saliva holding that box together.
Awesome.
And
I'm glad we can't pick up anymore.
right, and there's still a third box of just card sleeves and stuff. But it's like, why didn't that one ship? I thought we were only using 2 different warehouses.
Yeah.
And also, this is a Southern Hobby thing that doesn't make much sense. There's a new D&D book out,
Okay.
of which we have a normal cover and 2 alt covers, right?
Sure.
Alt covers showed up today,
Makes sense.
not the
Okie doke.
not the main one.
All right. Cool.
Why would those be coming?
No
from
idea.
I don't
No idea.
know. I don't know, and it's amazing how so much stuff we still want to get from them, but it's now so much more of a hassle.
Yeah, I can definitely see stocking D&D a lot less than we did when it was through Penguin Random House, because it is just so much less efficient to have to get it through Southern Hobby. Yeah, it was so great when Penguin Random House had it, because we could just bundle it together with all the graphic novels we get from them. So on a weekly basis, we could be like, hey, what do we not have? And now it's like, I never think about it.
There is, well, we got a Southern Hobby email about a new Pokemon set coming out,
Okay.
and it's ETBs and a tin
ETB trigger.
and blister boosters
Okay.
and boxes of, like, it's a $500 retail, because it's like 20, it's one case, but it's got 20 boxes of like 6 boosters per box.
Okay.
There's no just boosters.
Okay.
And I emailed our rep and said, are there no boosters for this? That's weird, right? And also included an anecdote from a customer on Wednesday who was surprised that we were still carrying Magic, because so many people just don't carry Magic anymore. Remember that exchange?
Yeah, I want to say I've heard about that before, where there's a couple of stores that have basically just gotten out of Magic cards in favor of other card games, and I mean, due to a variety of factors, but one of the major ones being like rampant overproduction.
Okay. But it was just such a surprise, like, oh, you're still carrying Magic.
We still sell Magic
And I couldn't,
every single day.
Well, I couldn't tell if it was a judgment, but they also bought Magic, so I didn't think it was.
Right.
So I included that anecdote in my email to our Southern Hobby rep.
Mhm.
And they just responded with, this is a half release, like 2 other ones before.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
So the point is, there's no booster boxes,
Okay.
and that's kind of all we get.
Yeah, I mean, we'll carry ETBs, but they don't sell that fast
Right.
anymore.
And I don't want to just carry ETBs for a set when there's no boosters go along with it.
I would get 2 or 3 or
The
something.
other thing is, do we get like the blister boosters and tear those open?
The only reason I would do that is if we didn't have any other boosters right now. That's the only reason we've gotten the blister ones in the past, is because we have no boosters to sell, and we have to have boosters to sell. If we still have boosters from previous sets, no, I'm fine.
Then I was trying
It's
to
a
do
half
that.
release, we
Well,
could
we
skip it.
we have very few,
Okay. Well, then maybe then.
but I don't know how many things are coming out before that.
Mhm.
And then I was trying to do the math on the big $500 20 box, 6 boosters each.
Mhm.
So it's like, all right, well, that means we're getting 120 boosters per
Mhm.
case. And what is the retail? How does that go? I'm also like, I don't want to drop that kind of money up front, because
No.
we don't order that heavy on Pokemon anymore, because if you go to Target, their aisles are overflowing with
Yeah,
them.
I mean, it would basically, you're ordering 4 boxes of boosters at that point. And that's a lot more than we would normally get for a new series.
Now, during the pandemic, we would order.
Oh yeah, I mean, you
Significantly more.
literally couldn't keep them in stock. Again, we would sometimes buy other varieties of Pokemon stuff just to have something to sell. we drastically expanded. Like I don't even think we were carrying ATVs and stuff before the pandemic, but we started doing that because people kept asking, and so we were doing that, and we were doing the big oversized flat boxes that would have like oversized cards and tokens and other stuff. We did a bunch of different kinds of decks and starter kits and motorcycle noises, and
the
more
Pokemon motorcycle noises are my least favorite from the most recent couple year sets.
It's like they're not going anywhere.
It's like it's a parade. We are clearly not far enough underground in this podcastatorium bunker.
Summer nights, man. And I know it's spring, but this is a real summer night phenomenon.
The windows are closed too. Let's make sure we point that out.
Doesn't matter.
Wow. Now watch that.
And there we go.
None of it got picked up on our microphones.
If none of it got picked up, this gets cut out.
Okay, you get to edit this one then. Also,
you cut stuff out all the time, Patrick.
Dow. You're picking up next week.
Thank you. I love that. I don't think so.
So we order less Pokemon, and no one carries Magic anymore. What's a store to do?
I'd read recently that certain card games were like there's a new Star Wars card game, there's Lorcana, there's the One Piece card game. I think there's something else recently, and it was being talked about as though, you know, what used to be a core number of card games that stores would carry, and I think it was like Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh.
That's us.
Like maybe one other one, like a big four. I don't remember what the other fourth one would have been.
Rage.
And then now it's expanded into more different games, and I just thought, like, there's no version of this where we're carrying 7 different card games. Like, even if we could get Lorcana, which I guess we still can't, which is insane to me if true, because this is like, they're on like their 5th or 6th expansion. You can get them at Target. Like, I don't understand.
That doesn't make any sense because we couldn't get it because we don't have organized gameplay.
Right.
How does Target get it?
Well, Target gets it because Target is buying as much as probably the entire independent card market as a whole.
We do have small orders for the next wave of One Piece because so many people ask for One Piece.
Sure, and we'll see if they go.
Right. But nowhere near the buy-in level that we did for My Hero Academia.
No. Yeah, and I don't know about the Star Wars thing. I remember people not being super enthused about it, but it's launched and maybe people like it now. I don't know, man. But yeah, I do not want to ever devote more floor space than what we devote now to games, and I certainly don't love devoting that much money to card games and stuff. As we found out many, many times over the years, the more money we put into categories that we do not understand or appreciate, the more money we lose. So I don't know that I care to do that unless it's indisputable that we need to be carrying a specific thing. And I don't think we've reached that point with any of the new card games.
No, and even there's certain points where Yu-Gi-Oh is on the bubble.
Yeah,
but it's holding its own.
And we don't get like we'll get like a box of Yu-Gi-Oh for a new set, and they eventually go, and people buy a few packs at a time, and occasionally someone comes in and they buy 10 packs, and it all goes away. But
it's weird that it's not a property you hear people talking about as far as anime or manga anymore.
I mean, they're still making new Yu-Gi-Oh sets, and that game's been out for like 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So it must be doing something right.
More power to them.
Sure.
This is definitely an example of me hearing things all week and be like, oh, we should talk about that, and not writing any of it down.
That's okay.
I was going to briefly mention the Eisner nominations.
Okay.
But only because so very many Eisner nominees this year have had events at Challengers.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
It's neat.
When you look back at it and think like, oh yeah. Like a lot of these books we had events for. And because I'm not looking at the list right now, I really can't name a lot of them other than like Local Man, which is best new series.
Clementine.
Clementine, yeah. We had a Clementine release event. We also had Jeff Lemire that same day. Phantom Road was nominated. Yeah. You know what wasn't nominated for best humor publication was Peacemaker.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But yeah,
awards are a scam.
There's plenty more nominees. I'm like, oh yeah, we know that person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
It's pretty cool.
And there's also like people that are look, I was nominated in this category. I'm like, oh, look at everybody else in that category. I'm so sorry.
Uh-huh. It is very tough sometimes to see people that you appreciate up against people where it's like, there's no way you're beating this person.
Yeah. Or there's points where it's like, oh man, Kelly Thompson is up against Zoe Thorogood, things like that.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little surprised that the Zoe Thorogood's hack slash thing performed as well at the Eisners as it did, because it's a thing that I don't think of in the same way I would think of It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth.
Exactly, yeah.
It doesn't, like, it's cool that she's doing it, and it's a fun book, and I know people are enjoying it, but it's a very different type of project than Impending Blindness of Billy Scott, or It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, or something like that. It feels like a more personal project, which is not to say hack slash is not personal. It's intensely personal, which is why she's doing it.
Right.
But it was a little surprising to see that thing hit as many categories as it did. I mean, good for her. I hope it wins a bunch.
We got a couple of emails this week of upcoming summer launches for Image, and I legitimately can't remember the name of this one, but it's written by colorist Lee Lowridge.
I'm going to look it up because I know the one you're talking about.
It's Chill something?
No, Still Something.
Okay. And it's drawn by Andrew Robinson. But the premise
are real good.
is real good.
Real good. Those preview pages were great.
There's basically a sociopath steals a machine that lets him stop time. And after
it's tough because they have so many emails today for all of
yes.
their books. So I can't just look for the Image Comics one, Standstill.
Okay.
Andrew Robinson's the artist.
Yeah, I said that part.
I wasn't listening. I was busy looking for this.
And after the bodies of world leaders mysteriously pile up and famous works of art go missing, this unnamed, lowly scientist recognizes what's happening because he created that piece of machinery, and it becomes up to him to stop this guy. And I say like lowly scientist because they never mention his name in the press release.
Yep.
Just the name of the protagonist.
Only the device's creator, a run-of-the-mill science geek, knows what's happening and sets out to stop the guy's seemingly endless revenge tour.
The guy's name is like
Riker Rule.
Riker Rule.
An enigmatic, lecherous, and clinically insane sociopath who has stolen a top-secret device that can freeze time. The cool thing is they released a group of preview pages, and apparently this is an 8-issue series where the first issue is 60 pages.
60 pages.
And it's basically Riker Rule at a diner talking to the waitress about, like, what would you do if you could stop time? And then it gets weird and creepy at the end because he's a lecherous sociopath.
Oh, I thought it was Rob Banks, but also have a emotional breakdown.
Yeah, it looks really good. First issue, again, 60 pages, $4.99, which is insane to me.
I assume that all of the emails we got today are books that are in the catalog for
it's
July.
all stuff in August, yeah. Since Lunar put up the Image August catalogs.
June, July, August. Okay.
Yeah, the other ones were The Convert and Kieran Gillen and Casper Weingard's The Power Fantasy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. See, like something like Standstill is a book I want to promote, but if we put it on the register graphic of upcoming series,
Patrick,
no one knows what that is.
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not even putting it in the email because it's the thing that we would have to physically say, this is really good and you should read this.
Yeah.
Putting stuff like that in the email, people's eyes are going to gloss right over it. They're not going to know, they're not going to see a name they really recognize, they're not going to care. I think people will add it through like their Managed Comics portal, going through the catalog. They might do that. But maybe this conversation right here could get a couple of course, at the time we're saying this, you probably can't.
Yeah.
I don't know if that stuff's even going to be up by Monday.
No.
I don't think so.
We're not getting previews next week.
So yeah, it's probably going to be another couple weeks. I will order a bunch, and we will probably put it in people's hands. We'll make it the pick of the week.
And I assume we'll definitely have a PDF preview long before
for
then.
Sure, yeah. That was one of the disappointing things about these various announcements today is like none of them come with PDFs because they're all just the most basic press release emails, not here's stuff on FOC, so you should read these.
But speaking of new titles, you and I were talking earlier this week about this week's X-Men announcements. Was Wolverine last week? Did we ever talk about Wolverine?
We didn't talk about it on the podcast, but we talked about it at the store.
Okay. So there's
Saladin Ahmed and Martin Coccolo.
Yes, there's Wolverine by Saladin Ahmed, and Immortal Thor is Martin Coccolo, who's done maybe 7 issues of that book.
I think he did more than that, but he's definitely done with it.
He did less than 9. I know that.
Okay.
That is.
I mean, 13 just came out, and he didn't do it, so
Yeah.
he did some of the first 12.
And this week they announced Storm
Finally, they announced Storm, yeah.
and Dazzler. And Dazzler is her going on tour.
Yeah.
It's a miniseries.
It's 4
Dazzler's a
issues.
miniseries. She's going on tour, but Domino is her manager, and Strong Guy's her bodyguard.
Okay,
And
that sounds fun. Jason Liu's the writer. It's a brand new artist.
yeah, and then it's another mutant is the drummer, and another mutant is something else.
Okay.
And then Storm, I do not know the writer.
The writer is the guy who did I Am Iron Man,
That's what I thought, but
and
usually
he's got that book at Oni that just came out.
the Viking one.
I don't remember what it was called. I'm gonna look it up.
Or
It starts with an A.
Yeah, the Barbarian one. I said Viking, I meant Barbarian. Yeah, we're thinking of the same one.
Yep.
But I always thought he was part of a writing team,
Well, I
or
think
was it a writer artist?
I think it was a writer artist
Okay.
team, but he, I think, was like they plotted it together, but he was the scripter probably.
Okay.
But yeah, he's the one writing it. The artist is Lucas Wernick.
Yeah, from current X-Men stuff.
Yeah, with a cover by Matthias Manhanini.
And it's a new costume, but it's just a
It's a good costume.
yeah. So here's the thing I don't understand
works.
about a lot of costumes.
Okay.
Why do you have a completely bare midriff but long sleeves?
Because if you're doing all that work on the abs, you want to show them off.
Okay.
That's just how it works.
But I think she just cheats and uses like lightning for those electrostimulus machines. What is that called?
I don't know, but I mean, it's
It's got some initials.
she's still
It's,
doing the work,
okay.
lightning work. Yeah, I think it's a good one, and it's going to be tying in slightly to the Avengers stuff because she's joining the Avengers in August, I think.
But didn't you say that the point of her joining Avengers was they didn't have a plan for her?
Well, it sounds like somebody had a plan at some point. I'm trying to think of the DC stuff that got announced today.
Well, hold on. As far as the
sure.
X-Men stuff goes, there's a lot of it that I'm just not excited about.
Okay.
And a lot of it seems fine. Like there's nothing that made me go, oh man, yes. Oh, Multiple Man is Dazzler's roadie.
That makes sense.
That's funny.
That makes sense.
But even where there are pluses, like, oh, Mark Russell's writing X Factor,
Mm-hmm.
there's minuses.
Bob Quinn's drawing X Factor.
I'm just not going to say it like that.
Too late. I think
So there's-
Eisner Award nominated Bob Quinn. I think
There's nothing that like,
wasn't he the artist on that Kill Your Darlings?
Yeah.
That got nominated.
and to be fair, that was a good style for his art for that, and he did a fun that Humanoids book with the Cat Club something, can't remember, the witches in a band,
Oh,
Midnight Cat Club or something like that.
seeing if it's on one of these shows.
It's definitely not. I don't have it.
Okay.
It was one that Holly had sent us to
Yeah.
to read. But anyway, and I thought it's okay. They don't have to get me excited. Other people need to be excited for these books. Other fans need to be excited for these books. So it's okay if I'm not excited. But then I thought, no, it kind of needs to be us that get excited, because the more excited we are, the more excited we can get people.
And that's part of it, but I think you're also discounting the fact that you read and enjoy superhero comics.
I do.
It's not like you are coming at this from a clinical outsider perspective of like, how do I sell this to somebody who likes X-Men comics? You like X-Men comics. If they're not making X-Men comics that you personally like, past a certain point, like that's kind of a problem. Like it's fine if you don't like all of them. I don't know. I think this is definitely a launch where they're really looking at it as like a scattershot thing, where it's just, as opposed to Shatter Star, which would be a different approach.
I was going to see if there was some sort of connection between Longshot, Shatterstar, and Scattershot. Although, to be fair,
Scattershot's like the third Summers brother.
Scattershot sounds like more of a oddball Spider-Man villain than a
I think it's also probably Transformer. So the thing with this lineup is it very much feels like they are trying to make as diverse a line as possible in the sense of like how many different concepts can we come up with? How many different characters can we give books to? How wide can we make this line instead of making it necessarily a deep line of just a few titles that really hit a huge demographic? It's like, I think they're in the same way that a lot of the Avengers stuff where they're like, we're okay if only a few people read Avengers Inc. And then they find out, oh no, this is what a few people really means. I think they're looking at that with a lot of this where it's like, Dazzler can just be 4 issues. Wolverine doesn't have to appeal to everybody, although it probably should.
But this is the opposite of Dal's long-term publishing plan. Less books to more people. This is more books to less people.
Yeah, I'm not defending it. I'm explaining it.
Oh yeah, I didn't think you were. I'm just saying they're not listening to you.
I don't like it necessarily.
We read Tom Brevoort's column every week. Does he not listen to our podcast?
Apparently not.
But look, he's only like, there's 2 of us.
I'm trying.
Only 1 of him. So he's knocking out 2 different people's things with 1 listen.
I'm trying very hard not to form too firm an opinion on the X-Men line before a single book has even come out. I know that there's been multiple months
then you don't belong on the internet.
of solicitations, but solicitations and cover art and comments from the creators are not stories. I want to wait until the stories come out and then try and judge them off of that. But sometimes it gets real difficult because you see some stuff and you see some creator names, and you see some premises, and you see some titles, you see some cover art, and you go, I don't know if this is going to work. I had told somebody just this week that it doesn't help that I'm currently rereading bits of House of X and Powers of 10, where every page was like, I have no idea what's going to happen next. I'm so thrilled to be just on this journey, like just finding out what happens next and what it could all look like and how many new ideas every other page seemed to generate, as opposed to this where it's just like, it's X Factor. You remember X Factor? It's that again. Like, okay, everything is, it feels like it's got this, like, this gravitational pull back to the 90s. And it's like, I don't love that as an organizing principle for an editorial decision is, how about the 90s? I think it could work. I mean, X-Men 97 is proof of concept. Like, you can absolutely do something that is working in that mode that appeals to a ton of fans, lapsed fans, new fans, you name it. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they'll find out that whatever secret formula that Disney had to create that cartoon, maybe they instilled some of it into Marvel Publishing, and Marvel Publishing can do that, but for X Factor and X-Force and Wolverine and Storm and Phoenix and Dazzler and X-Men and Uncanny X-Men and Exceptional X-Men. And I don't even think I've named everything they've announced.
NYX.
A lot of books. NYX. See, I forgot one. It's possible. It's definitely
Uncanny
possible.
X-Men. Did you say Uncanny
I
X-Men?
didn't say.
Okay.
It, but yeah,
I'm already violently disappointed because they didn't use the lights in Dazzler's logo. They just used the outline of the logo, not the actual like disco ball lights that used to be in the logo.
Unbelievable.
So who's this even for?
Wow.
And the Storm logo they're using is clearly from the early 2000s, not the 90s. So it doesn't even make any sense with their branding.
Pass. Yeah, I would. There's nothing that I've seen yet from the Tom Brevoort X-Men rollout that I've said, oh my god, I can't wait to read that. But like you said, I think almost all of it is fine. It's books that I will definitely check out. There's nothing so far that I've seen that I've said I have zero interest in reading that. So yeah, I mean, maybe this is a line where they do a lot of, B+ to B- work, and that's enough, and that's okay, and maybe that'll work for people. I'm very curious what the fan support is going to be like for this and how quickly it's going to find its recurring level as opposed to the first issue, second issue sales, which are not representative of where those books are going to be in 6 months to a year.
Doom, which is selling good, but it's not selling anywhere near. Okay, I was criticized for that today by an editor because I say it with an exclamation point, and it doesn't. The reverence you pay Doom, he doesn't need it. You just say Doom.
Doom.
Not that. Nope. That's an actual thing that happened.
I'm going to lose my Latvian citizenship now.
I mean, your dual citizenship. Let's not.
Doom does not allow for dual citizenship. That is not how it works. You were saying though about Doom number 1?
But it's just not selling to the level that we ordered it.
So when I ordered it, I definitely intended it to be a book that we would have longer term than just like a week or two like we would for most one-shots. I did not order it like I would order giant size Fantastic Four.
What was the deal with this week's Miles Morales? Because we're out of it.
What was the deal? I don't know. I ordered some more. We should be getting them early next week.
Okay.
It was still available Wednesday night at PRH.
Oh, that can't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Miles Morales is a weird one where I always feel like we're ordering the right amount, and it seems like we're always out of every single issue. So the next one, I'll just order a bunch more.
Week after next, My Favorite Thing is Monsters Book 2 is out.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So people should get excited for that. And also, I'm going to tell you about a book that I read that you're not going to read.
Ready for it.
And that I enjoyed it, even though it's not my scene.
Mm-hmm.
Grommets number 1.
I was going to read it. I didn't read the PDF, but I'm like, when I unpack it and I'm looking at that box, I'll read one. I'll give it a read.
I think it's more for me than for you because we are a generation apart.
Incorrect. We're actually part of the same generation, just two different ends of it.
I don't look at it as in the nomenclature. I just think
I'm just saying we are both technically within Generation X. You are just at the very beginning of it, and I'm at the very end of it. Not literally the beginning and end, but very close to.
I look at every decade as a separate.
That's fair.
Generation, even though technically what generations are 20 years?
I have no idea.
And I was never a skateboarder. I owned a skateboard, but I owned a.
You weren't a skater boy?
Well, I said, "See you later, boy." Ash Nico does a filthy cover of that.
Ash Nico does a filthy everything.
My skateboard was half the width of the skateboards of the day and the skateboards that are in this book.
Okay. They
were normal skateboards to me, and I was real bad at the balancing on those.
Oh, sure.
But I went to school in the 80s. I went to junior high and high school in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And this feels a lot like that. It wasn't my high school experience, but I enjoyed the throwbackness of it.
Okay.
And even though not great things happen to people, it's still like, I think the art fits it real well. It has a real kind of Jack Davis feel to it.
Okay.
Like a really, a Mad Magazine almost. So it's not a humor book, but it is funny.
Okay.
And I honestly didn't think it was going to be for me at all.
Cool.
But I liked it. And I think that people will get a kick out of it.
Nice.
It's a fun book, even though some things happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the very few PDFs I read.
Mm-hmm. All I read was Lawful was what it was called from Boom, and I read Transformers number 9. Oh,
I read... What was Lawful about?
It's really hard to say. I didn't like it at all.
Okay.
Basically, it's like a fantasy world, but yet it's also the regular world. So I kind of don't like. There's an aspect to their world building that
I know the book.
Do not understand at all because they don't lead you into it. It's just like, you're in a world where if you break a rule, you become like more a monster for every rule you break, and eventually, if you break enough rules, you get thrown out of the city. So it's a city composed of people who are anywhere from completely human to like monstrous and inhuman. Horns and animal limbs.
Is it a commentary on social media status or?
And there's like trees.
What was the
and
community
nature
thing?
Everywhere.
The meow meow bones.
But like,
meow, meow?
It's also a regular city. So I'm like, is this like a post-apocalyptic thing? Like you have regular like North American society stuff, but also a completely different culture in it. Like the dissonance of that made it impossible for me to invest in anything in the story. I was just like, you gotta explain this. You gotta explain this way faster than maybe issue 2. So I didn't really connect with it at all. As an allegory, I guess it's fine, but I just, the fantasy world building took me completely out of the story.
Oh, wow.
Like in a way that I was almost viscerally getting angry as I kept going. Because I'm like, no, but why is it the regular world, but yet not these things? Like, you got to give me a panel of, this is an alternate reality. This is history changed 2,000 years ago. This is 6 million years in the future. Give me something to latch onto other than just being like, I don't know, it's a D&D thing, but I guess it's also happening in Portland. Like, no, you're not allowed to do that. So that was very difficult for me to deal with. Transformers is really good, though. Transformers 9 is real good. Keeps being good. More Transformers show up. More Transformers get killed.
That book for an Eisner.
They should nominate it for a whole bunch of Eisners.
I read Profane #1.
Yeah, the Peter Milligan Boom mystery series.
Yeah, the tagline is basically, what if Batman had to solve Bob Kane's murder?
A lot of suspects in that one.
And
Jim Steranko.
Batman has to because nobody else wants to.
Then it's 6 sidekicks of Trigger Keaton.
Yeah, that's fair.
Who would want to kill him? I don't know, everybody.
That's fair. And it's very much a, what were those books? What was that?
Bang.
Bang, which was the James Bond doesn't know he's James Bond type story. And wasn't there another reference you had for it?
I don't remember what the other one was. Bang was the main one I was thinking about because it was the super spy finds out he's a fictional character.
Yeah. So the thing about what if Batman has to solve Bob Wayne's murder?
Bob Kane's.
Bob Kane's.
Bob Wayne hopefully is fine in this story.
Man, I don't know. I haven't checked in with him.
I mean, he did work at DC. That does make sense.
But Batman doesn't know he was created by Bob Kane and doesn't understand any of that part of it. So that's what it is.
Sure.
I thought it was fun. It was it's noirish enough for me. It's in my wheelhouse.
That's cool.
Yeah. You'll get to more of it towards the end. Somebody was asking about Ain't No Grave. I'm like, what's it about? I'm like, well, look, it's a Western. I can't tell you what it's about because that's the kind of the hook of the end of the book.
It's about a comic by two guys who have done a bunch of really acclaimed comics together.
One of them draws Transformers.
And one of them draws Transformers too.
And then he said, are there any other good, like, Western comics? Oh, my friend. Let me open your eyes to The Sixth Gun, which...
Now in an omnibus format. Second omnibus is coming out in like a week.
Yeah. But we don't have, like, are the other volumes out of print, or we're just not getting them because...
We're just not getting them because there will be 3 omnibuses within like 3 months.
Yeah.
So by the time you finish the first omnibus, we'll have the second omnibus.
The first one is like the first 3 trades.
Yeah, and it's... Because it's 3 omnibi that will collect the entire series plus all of the ancillary material, which is like 13, 14 volumes of stuff.
Yeah.
So you will finish one and then the next one will be out and so on.
I admit, the pull for me to buy those was strong, even though I own all the
Gunslinger edition?
The Gunslinger editions and the Coffin edition.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, don't do that.
Gunslingers are not for me.
Also, no one asked me to write an introduction to these new ones, so I don't need to own it.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, he didn't get it, but he's like, oh, next time for sure. That's definitely my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
We had a guy walk in, come to the counter and go, where do you keep your Silver Age stuff? I'm like, we don't carry Silver Age stuff. All of our back issues are even newer than modern. Oh, turns and walks out.
That happens a lot.
I'm like, man, that is the not stigma, but the misconception that a comic store has to have Golden or Silver Age.
Yep.
We don't.
We don't.
And then we had another guy.
And I always think when I see stuff like that at comic conventions, which is a normal place to see a lot of older comics, I'll pass by tables and it's like, man, Dell Gold Key stuff.
Yeah.
Still, it's 2024. People are still looking for that. And I guess someone out there still wants, Bob Hope comics from DC or whatever. I guess. It seems weird, but okay.
Some people even look for like Aztec back issues.
That seems insane.
Yeah.
Like the car? Like the Pontiac Aztec?
Yeah.
Oh. It's a good car.
Also, that would have landed if I would have said Quasar as opposed to Aztec.
And they find it. For under $10.
I was cutting up some boxes, and when I come back in, Gina is actively had blown up one of the security camera images and was following somebody.
Yep.
And had it so detailed that you could see they were just looking on MapQuest on their phone. She's like, this guy's been wandering around like he's lost.
Google Maps is going to help out.
And he comes up and he does a whole...
Where's the Silver Age stuff?
How long have you guys been here? 16 years. 16 years? What? And I never... Wow. I guess congratulations to you.
Thanks.
Wow, that's amazing. Man, that's so great.
Very kind.
Walks out.
Nothing.
Just walks out.
Yeah.
Like
so first thing Monday, I had one of my least favorite types of interactions in the store.
Orlando?
No, not a specific person. But it was
Also, that's a code name, so we can say that and not be outing anybody. Also, may I make a quick observation? I just realized in this podcast that if I'm talking about someone who presents as a woman, I specifically always say they. But if it's somebody that presents as a dude, I just say guy.
They have something to work on.
Yeah. When I'm telling stories
Something
on the
to work
podcast. Look, it's like halfway there.
My least favorite kinds of interactions.
Because
one
as
of
you
my
always
least
used to
favorite.
taught me, it doesn't matter unless there's a specific reason to mention race, creed, religion
Identifying
in the
characteristics.
story.
Yeah.
Why do it?
Yeah. One of my least favorite types of interactions happen first thing Monday morning, where I'm doing some work and I'm getting some things done. And a person walks in. It's no one I've seen before. They've got a drink with them.
What's their gender, though?
I wouldn't know. I didn't ask. So they're walking around a little bit, and anything I can help you find? No, I'm just, I got my car over at Delgado's. So thought I'd pop in here. How long you guys been open? About 16 years. Wow. Yeah. Are there a lot more books now than there used to be? Because, I remember in like the 1980s.
It's not your job to help that guy pass the time.
It was my job to entertain him for about 10 minutes as he would just come up with other open-ended questions that I'd have to stop what I was doing. I'll jump to the end. Didn't buy anything. Wasn't interested in any specific books. Just wanted to talk about what he remembered about the industry and are they still making this? Or, I looked at your bags and boards. Are they more expensive now? And it's just a lot of like, oh my God, you don't know anything about the industry.
Everything is more expensive.
The stopping relevant to you 20-something years ago. You are not interested in making a purchase. You're just bored and you want me to be a vessel for your boredom. And it's like, A, I have work to do, and B, the times that I want to stop and talk to people are in ways that it can generate a sale. Either because you just bought something and you want to chit chat, great, love it. Or because you're looking for something specific and you want to have a conversation about that, great, love it. As we say all the time, it's comics and conversation, not comics or conversation.
You want conversation? Buy comics.
So yeah, that was how my Monday started. So that was really super fun.
Well, Dal, we're going to end this podcast with a very specific niche question that was driving me insane today.
Okay.
What does Diamond call their T-folds?
They call them comic T-folders.
Folders?
Yeah, it's folder. If you look up folder, you'll find it in the system.
Because I took a box in, and the rule is
Restock
reorder
it.
one.
Yeah.
Could not find it.
Yeah,
Pulled up the last 6 invoices.
I
Couldn't
always
find
search
it.
for folder because it
Okay.
brings it up right away.
I'm like, T-fold, T-folds, T-folds, comic book fold,
Nope, folder.
folder.
I
Got
know it's. I only know it because I remember it. It would not be the first thing I would have thought to call them, but because I've had to reorder them a whole bunch of times, I remember it's under folder.
Well, now I've learned something.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.